Okay, so we have covered many topics. What I want to do now is cover setup mode. In order to cover setup mode as an introduction, I want to recap what a program is. Remember, a program is made up of layers. It plays on one MIDI channel. It could be one single sound, or it can be a combination of sound. But the thing that a program has in common is that it plays on one MIDI channel. And it has all these controls. So that's our basic unit of sound. Now, a setup is a combination of programs. A setup can have as many as 16 zones, each of which is calling a program. And what is a zone? A zone tells the instrument what the keyboard and MIDI controls are going to send to the sound engine, so that when it plays the programs, what is it going to sound like? So you might have noticed that when we play the grand piano in program mode, we have sliders for wet, dry, mix, etc. And we know that this is, we use this as MIDI 28. It's labeled there on slider I. That's MIDI control number 28. And the sustain pedal here, well, as we know, that's MIDI control number 64. And they're all assigned all the time. They're always working for us. Sostenuto works, by the way, like a regular grand piano does. That's control number 66. Mod wheel here, the pedals, all the MIDI control numbers. Now, who determined how these physical controllers are mapped to MIDI controllers? That's taken care of in the setup. If you look at the MIDI transmit mode, we haven't talked about this mode yet. If you press MIDI, you can see the MIDI transmit page, and the very first parameter on there is, what is the control setup? The control setup is a special setup object that maps all of the controllers to MIDI transmission destinations for the sake of program mode. And the control setup that's here from the factory, called internal voices, this is the one that should be set if you want the MIDI control transmission of these pedals, as I mentioned, and these sliders to match what is labeled on the front panel. And that's how we have programmed our sounds in a program mode. We've programmed to respond to those MIDI controllers in hopes that you would use the sliders for those kind of controls. Now, setup mode basically allows 16 different PC3X controllers to be used at once. And every zone can have a completely different mapping for these MIDI controllers. Maybe some zones don't want a sustain pedal. Maybe some do. Maybe some want a sustain pedal to work backwards so that it's on all the time until you press it. This is what we're going to talk about in setup mode.